Hi, so today in this screencast I'm going to talk you through the login and menu system for my project on student accommodation. So upon starting it up we have the login screen here, and so I have a macro that handles different levels of users with varying security access. So I'll just log in first with my super user with the highest level of access to all the records in the system, and so he will see then this menu which just shows up access to the three main aspects of the system, which are the forms, the reports, and the queries themselves. So if we go just into the forms, we'll see again there's 5 buttons set up, which will take you into each of the main forms of the system. So if we go into the first one, the landlord form, it'll show up the first record for forms, and I have across the bottom of all of them a set of buttons that'll take the first record back to the next record, on to the next record, or straight down to the last again, this is back to the first. And then I have a button for saving a record, adding and inserting a new record into the system, and deleting and removing a record from the system, and also then a button to shut the form off itself. Now back onto the property form, and here in this one I have a list box for the person to select how many rooms are in the property available, and then drop down boxes for the capacity and for the landlord's ID, which comes straight from the landlord table itself. So again, I've the same setup of command buttons all across the bottom, just to keep it the same throughout the whole system itself. Again, into student, I have combo boxes for the specialism of the student, what to specialize in, their education. Again, the 3 options for that. The university ID, which comes from the university form itself as well, and then the rental contract ID coming from the rental contract form as well. And again, the same setup across the bottom, keep a uniform design across the whole table. And again, in the university form, just varying details about the university, and the same setup across the bottom again. And into the rental contract form finally, where there's drop downs for the student number coming from the student table, the property ID from the property table, and then 3 sets of terms for the length of the contract itself, and the payment method being a cash, debit, or check payment for the account. And then if we come back out and return back out again, we can go back into the reports. And these will just give us reports on the 5 main tables themselves. And it just give you a layout of all the landlords and all of their details. And again, across the bottom, I just have a macro set up to close all reports off, which will apply to all of them. This gives a listing of all the properties that are available. And again, this gives a list of all the students that are in the system that have properties, that are renting properties off landlords. And then a listing of the universities that are concerned with the students in the apartments that we have and the flats and accommodation. And then a listing of the contract details for each student and property. And if we return back out again and into the queries, this gives reports on certain queries that have been done already. For example, the amount payable for each student and their properties, and say then the amount of people that are paying by cash to certain landlords. Then number of, say, if you want to know how many students are doing computing courses, this will give you a listing of them. And then the likes of a query on what people on values that have increased, values that have increased, and values that have decreased as well. So that's a brief just run through on how the system works and how the user would navigate around it. So I hope that was helpful, and thank you for listening.